Hello, folks, and welcome to Andrew's Empirical Pandemic Overview. Now, the definition for empirical I have here from Oxford Languages reads as based on, concerned with, or verifiable by observation or experience, rather than theory or pure logic. And I think you'll find that all the things I'm telling you here fit into that category. Well, first up, I'd like to talk about the mythical anti-vax tax. And the reason why I call it that is because mythical refers to something that you keep hearing about but never really see, like the Loch Ness Monster. So I think right now they should be referring to this as the unvaxxed talk because it seems to be more talk than anything. I heard something about how they want to check it out with the Charter of Rights, and I thought, well, hey, that's great because what better source of justice do we have in this land than something which lawyers use to find loopholes to get pedophiles and rapists off? Actually, the way they're going about it, it seems to me that the pandemic may be over before they ever get around to implementing this tax. Now, if they do manage to implement this tax, before I finish uploading this video or before you see this video, please don't, when you see this, please don't say, oh, well, that's kind of dated. Please try to be understanding, okay? Try to be understanding. Hey, how many times have you heard that one in the last couple of years? Now, next up, one of my favorites, and that is limits on outdoor gatherings. Now, supposing you're planning some kind of barbecue or picnic with about 75 people. A week before your event, you hear something in the news saying they're going to limit outdoor gatherings to 20 people. Does this mean that you have to cancel your event? No, you just simply repackage it as a protest, right? Because we've all seen this. They make an announcement saying they're going to limit outdoor gatherings to 20 people, and then 80 people or more get pissed off about it and go gather somewhere outdoors to protest it. Because, hey, this is Canada. We know they're not going to send stormtroopers in to mow us down. Now, I've never gone to one of these types of protests, but I wonder when you go to one of these kind of protests, do they let you participate if you actually show up wearing a mask? Then there's those screener questionnaires you have to go through to get access into certain buildings where they ask you things like, have you had or any worsening symptoms of fever? No. Chills? No. The shits? No. Have you been exposed to somebody with COVID-19? No. Have you been told to isolate as a result of being exposed to someone with COVID-19? No. Have you been told to isolate because you're someone who likes to expose themselves? No. And all those other questions you answer no to just so you can get into the freaking building. Back before they had QR codes, restaurants would ask you, they'd say, oh, I need a phone number. They didn't say, I need your phone number, I need a phone number. Now, one time people could say, well, hey, I don't have a phone, man, but nowadays they know that everybody and his dog has a cell phone. I wonder if you gave them the phone number of the restaurant across the street, do you think they'd get suspicious? Well, there's a good chance they would, because nowadays, quite often, those restaurants are owned by the same damn people. Oh, and just a heads up, folks, 967-1111 didn't work for me, and 439-0000 didn't work for a friend of mine, although you might be able to get away with giving them your dog's cell phone number. Well, then there's the politicians. Something I've been saying for a while now is that this is a terrible time to be a political leader, but it's a great time to be a member of the opposition because you know that if there's nothing else you can use to attack your opponent, you can always fall back on COVID, right? Well, the pandemic hasn't gotten any better during your leadership, and you can basically use this line in pretty well any country of the world. I've never really been a fan of Doug Ford. I tend to go more with the NDP. Hey, I probably would have voted for Andrea if I thought she actually could have got in. But lately she seems to be doing too much of this sort of devil's advocacy thing. For example, if Ford says, we have made a decision, we are laser focused in making a decision to close restaurants and schools, then she's saying, well, hey, they don't care about the livelihood of these small businesses or kids learning in isolation. That's just reckless and irresponsible. On the other hand, if Ford says that we're going to keep the restaurants and schools open, then she'll say, hey, he doesn't care about the health and safety of Ontarians. This is reckless and irresponsible. I think what these political foes should be doing is putting their differences aside and banding together for the common good, like they did on Star Trek Voyager. Hey, it was the first series to have a woman captain, and she was a babe. Not that they would cast some scrag in this type of role, but it seems to me the people behind this had at least a couple good ideas. And I want everyone to know how much safer I feel compared to the old days when politicians were merely focused, because today they're laser focused, and we know that nothing makes you sound more committed than adding on extra adjectives or adverbs. I think the reason why they chose the term laser focus is because back in the pre-Star Trek days, laser was a big buzzword in sci-fi. So they figure if they use the term laser focused, they know somewhere down the line they can always upgrade to phaser focused, although they might have to get some permission from the Roddenberry estate. And then there's the vaccines. Oh yes, those vaccines. Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. Government mandates and all those slick tricks. These are a few of my favorite pricks. Now, I remember when Pfizer started out as the drug of choice, whenever they ran out of it, it was always reassuring to know that there was always something that they claimed was just as effective. Something I've been wondering about is when junkies go to get vaccinated and they say, oh, now would you prefer Pfizer or Moderna? Do they say, it doesn't really matter, just give me the freaking needle? Ah, oh man, this shit feels like it's been stepped on at least 10 times. One of the best, most classic episodes from the original Twilight Zone series was something called The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, written by the man himself, Rod Serling, as a lot of the best ones were. And it was a story about how these alien invaders weren't the real true threat. The real true threat was us and the way we turned on each other and panicked during this crisis. And for some time now, I just keep seeing something analogous about this to our current situation. Perhaps the real threat to our civilization isn't the pandemic, but rather the way we, as a civilization, are handling it. Perhaps the real threat in this crisis is us. Well, folks, that's my overview. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do, please pass it on to as many people as you can to help me realize my dream of making this overview go as viral as COVID-19 itself. Bye for now.